Welcome everyone, you're listening to Nephology, the podcast dedicated to crypto, accounting, business, finance and much more. I'm Joe David, the founder of Nephos Group and Miner. Please note that all conversations recorded are professional opinions, and if you'd like to know more or gain support, please reach out to the team directly. Now on to the next episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode from your beloved Nephology podcast, where we have myself today presenting things I wish I knew in the crypto space now that I didn't know back then. We're going to shorthand it and call it Things I Wish I Knew. My co-host and guest today is Robin. Robin, so good to see you again, pal.
Hey buddy, nice to see you again.
Can you give us a quick intro as to who you are, what you do, and why you're here?
Yeah, so my name's Robin Thatcher. I do a bit of tax here and there. I run buythebookaccountancy.co.uk. As a side of that, I've got cryptotaxhelp.co.uk. And I have a successful Twitter account, I think, which is called The Secret Investor. But yeah, don't take that with a pinch of salt. Just follow me, though. I'll take any followers, please.
Much more successful than mine. Don't you worry, pal. Don't you worry.
Yeah, but you're more successful on LinkedIn.
I don't know. I've got some followers and connections. I don't think that translates to success, to be honest. But it's great to have you here. The reason why we've got Robin here is he's one of the bigger names and one of the most knowledgeable people in the space. I know you're pulling a face, but honestly, mate, you do know your stuff. I know you do. We've worked together plenty of times. Much like myself, Robin specialises in crypto tax, and we both actually have a background in property taxation as well, to go with that. So if you're looking for anything like that, we're always open to answer questions on Twitter. Yours is at The Secret Invest 2.
So it's The Secret Invest without the T and then the number 2. No. I must have been the second person. I don't know.
And mine is just at CryptoTaxJME. So give us a follow, give us a like, give us some questions, and we can do what we want. So let's kick it off with things I wish I knew a year ago. We're going to take a crypto perspective. We're going to take a tax perspective. We're going to take everything into consideration. So the first one I want to talk about, things I wish I knew, maybe even a year, 2-3 years ago, is software. The availability of software for your crypto taxes. How does that help us, Robin?
I think software, and also how to use the software, because I think that's been a journey I've been on. The journey we talk about. So software is so key, right, in crypto taxes, because the way, and whether this is right or wrong, the way I word it to people is I'll say, if you imagine all your transactions put into a spreadsheet, right, and you have to then say either me or my accountant is going to go through each one individually. What the software does is goes through that spreadsheet and effectively does 60% of it for us. It is AI, so the AI can only do so much. It's not perfect, I get that. But at the same time, that 50 or 60% that's done has saved us hours of time, especially if you're talking thousands of transactions. So I wish I'd known that. Because it would have helped me advise clients a lot clearer at the start. But the other thing about that, and the reason I expand on that, is because it's about having the right software. Because some softwares in that scenario, they might be more US setup. They might be more. They might have their AI isn't as good, or even their support function isn't as good. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't think it's fair to promote at this point. But what I'm saying is I've been through softwares where they're a lot more labour intensive, and that 50-60% we talked about before might be 20 or 30%, and all of a sudden you're starting on a back foot, and you're also charging the client more, which is, people might not believe that, but that's not what we want. We want to be able to get through as many clients efficiently, effectively as possible, but also charge the correct fee. So that's quite important to me. And then obviously, like I say, around the support section, not mentioning any names, but some I've come across, their support is so poor. And again, I'm not going to mention the name, but I had a specific software I worked with because a client was working with them on the January the 31st deadline. They replied to my support request in April. It just wasn't acceptable to me. But what that shows to me is they're geared to the US market, because what they probably did was switched off during that period. And if it had been the US tax deadline day, they'd have been absolutely switched on. So whilst I accept that, it just basically said to me they're not the UK market compatible. The other side of it is how do they respond to their support requests? And certain softwares I work with, there's certainly one, again, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's certainly one that's very adaptable. If you give them a problem, they don't just fix your problem, they fix it for everyone.
Yep.
And I like that because what they're doing is their mappings, etc., in the background are getting one step better each time. And that's great because you know that they're trying to constantly adapt. They're trying to be a market leader. One thing I researched a while ago, and this is, this never went anywhere, so I can speak about it. I talked with a group of developers about building a crypto tax software, and actually the labour involved in it is so huge. The build itself would take 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
And why that's relevant is because if you work with the software, none of them are perfect. But you want to find the one that's trying to be perfect, because in 12 to 18 months, they will be the market leader. And that's why I say that. So, yeah, I think that's a big learning curve.
Yeah, it's not just about the availability of software. It's understanding which one's appropriate, which one is going to help that particular client or the majority of clients. And I definitely wish I knew which ones were going to be leading, which ones were going to have issues, and because it's wasted a lot of time. But there's going to be stuff like that going in the future all the time. And yes, we wish we knew it, but it's just playing the game. For example, some software might be more appropriate for limited companies. Some are going to be more appropriate for individuals. Some are going to be appropriate for those who are just starting out a business and don't need too much and can save a bit of money. And these are the sort of things that we have experienced, we have learned about, we will continue to learn about. And is an advantage to having a crypto tax accountant, because we've been through it all, not just once or twice, but multiple times a day for the whole year. The other thing I wish... So go on.
No, I was just going to say on that, I think it's a good point to say to people out there, speak to your accountant about software openly. Ask the questions that... I don't mind people challenging me on software, but the reason I say that is because if I get a client that comes to me as with the experience I've got, I will talk openly about my experience. However, the risk can be if you deal with an accountant that doesn't, they will have a very narrow view. I only work with this software. And that would be a red flag to me. If a client came to me and said, Robin, I've worked with XYZ, I've done it for 2 years, but I want you to help me, will you work with that? I say, absolutely. If you are the client, if you are comfortable with it, let me make myself comfortable with it. As long as we both agree on the result and we get to the right place, that's what matters. If you speak to someone that says, I will only use this, that is a huge red flag to me, and that shows someone that's not adaptable to the space.
Yes, there are plethora. Let me start again with that one. Yes, there is a lot of different softwares out there. I've just abandoned...
Oh, come on, I thought you were going to attempt it.
Okay. There are a plethora of software options out there, and some of them are more appropriate than others. So you must always do your due diligence, because every client has a separate need, a separate niche, a separate thing that they are involved in that can save them time. Ultimately, if you use any software, you should be fine. Some just might be more effective and time consuming or less time consuming than others. So that's, a huge thing in the space. The other thing I wish I knew about personally were the unexpected tax bills. And I say I as in an investor and a tax practitioner. Now, it was hard to see that coming because we don't think about the bear market and the bull market and the cycles being relevant, but it ultimately has. And we did talk about it before it all happened, and there were clients that got on board and understood it and managed to make it work. But for those clients that didn't ask the question or didn't have us as crypto accountants or didn't follow us on our Twitter, weren't going to be aware of the fact that these tax bills can come at you really hard. I assume you've had the same situation where your tax year is within a bull market, but when you pay your taxes is within a bear market, and what issues that can cause.
I think last year, the bear market could not have been... It literally was timed to the tax year. So I think it hit May-ish. So what happened was, and I was guilty of this as a personal investor, which is why I say it. I don't say it of my clients, but I was guilty of being along for the ride and not considering the implications. Now, I don't make a lot of money or any money on crypto overall, so I can sit here and say, I didn't hit anything major. But what I think the issue was, people ring fence their crypto as, here's the money in an account, I'm not going to touch it. If I grow it and then buy another crypto, it doesn't count because I'm not taking it anywhere. I think that line that comes into my head is the amount of people I've spoken to on the phone. I didn't make any withdrawals. It doesn't matter. What matters is your disposals. If you sold that crypto in any way, traded for another one. So the example I'll always use is, let's say I bought Dogecoin. I don't know the price of Dogecoin. I don't touch it, but let's say I bought Dogecoin. I made $100,000 on Dogecoin, and I went, okay, I want to solidify my gains now into a more blue chip coin and go into Bitcoin. But because I haven't sold, I haven't made any money. I've made £100,000, whether I like it or not. And from the taxman's perspective, and overall, that tax is due on that money. The way to look at it is not that you've sold your Dogecoin for Bitcoin. Imagine the actual process is you sold your Dogecoin, you got GBP, you then bought Bitcoin with GBP. It's all brand new. So whether you like it or not, now we'll talk about the bear market now. So the £100,000 of Bitcoin you bought suddenly overnight becomes £50,000. So I've now got £50,000 Bitcoin. Doesn't matter, right? Well, it does, because I made £100,000 on that money, and I'm going to pay, if we use capital gains tax, I'm going to pay 20% on that. So I'm going to have a 20 grand tax bill, but I'm going to have to pay that 20 grand tax bill out of my 50 grand of Bitcoin, which now becomes 30 grand. So I'm left with 30 grand of my 100 grand. Doesn't seem fair, right? But yeah. That's the tax system, and the tax system is, if you make money, you need to put the tax to one side. Now, if I contra that with what I should have done, I made £100,000. I know my tax bill is going to be 20. I put that 20 to one side. I invest 80 grand in Bitcoin. The same drop takes me down to 40 grand, but I've saved myself 10 grand in there somewhere. So you just have to, that little bit of tax planning, especially end of tax years and things like that, it can really end up biting you. And I had people in worse positions than that who, by their own admission, they'll be liquidated by their tax bills. But that, it doesn't wait for anyone. You can't disappear. And most people don't want to look over their shoulder for the next 6 years.
So what we're saying is, if you don't tax plan, i.e. put money aside away from tax, you are gambling that money on the markets. Now, when it comes to a bear market, that tax money will be worth less and less and less, and therefore you have to top it up elsewhere, whether it's with fiat, your own money, or something else. However, if it goes up, nobody cares because you're making money with your tax money, so you have the money to pay your taxes. So it is an absolute gamble on the markets if you keep your tax money within a coin or token that is volatile and subject to the markets. So I want to caveat that by saying I'm talking about stable coins is okay to put your money, tax money aside. I would encourage fiat because some stable coins, as we know, have depegged.
Well, if you look at that, I would say Bitcoin is a reasonable stable coin. At the same time, it's a blue chip. Okay, it's not a stable coin, it's a blue chip. But you put it into that, it can still drop 50 to 60%. And like you say, like the depegs, they're a big one. Put it into fiat. But you are absolutely right. You're gambling on the market. And one of the things I had last year was people would say to me, "Okay, I'm gonna get my tax ready to pay, but I'm not going to do it until the January deadline because the markets will go back up." That can go two ways. They can go up or they can go back down, and you end up in a worse position. So you are constantly gambling with your money. It is true, and it's not a position any of us want you to be in, but it's such a learning curve because I don't think, even I didn't estimate that the bull run would hit when it did, and the timing of that bull run is so bad for the UK. But that is the unfortunate truth, and that could happen again. That cycle will probably happen again, and we all need to be more prepared for it, including us as accountants.
The bear run or the bull run?
Bear run, sorry.
Yeah. You're fine. I'm just being very specific because I can hear the comments now going, Robin said bull run when he meant bear run. Come on, guys.
Sack me off now. I don't know my crypto.
Boo.
That can happen. The bear run can happen at a tax year break, and if it does, that's when you get really hit. It will happen again. So I'll be prepared for it. Tax plan, get your accountant on board, have your software in place, do your bookkeeping, all of the above.
The thing is, right, we say all this and it's 100% true. However, we're in a state now where your 2024 tax return is probably going to be during a bear market, or majority of it is, and when you pay it, hopefully it will be a bull market. So you'll probably put money aside, go, oh, Jamie, you've lost me money. I could have, this, that, and the other. You could have, but are you going to risk it? If you just get into that routine, if the bull market doesn't hit when you expect, then you're still okay. Again, you're just taking away that gambling element, that risk element of it could go up or could go down. So yes, the best place to have done it would have been back in 23, sorry. So just be careful and mindful that we're not financial advisors, and we're definitely not crypto investing experts, not by a long shot.
Oh, not by a long shot. So when you said, every time I hear the title of this podcast, things I wish I knew, I sit there and just think, how to make money on crypto.
Yeah. So yeah, how to make money in crypto is definitely things I wish I knew. I still don't know, and I don't think I will know for a while, because we aren't investors. We are tax consultants. We are tax practitioners that happen to be in the crypto space. If we made that much money, we'd probably be having a different type of podcast now, wouldn't we?
I think so, and I think one of the things I've learned, which clients may or may not find interesting, is I don't invest in what clients tell me anymore, because I'm usually about 12 months too late. So I'm usually investing when it's either here or on its way back down. So yeah, I don't generally touch what people tell me. The other thing is, I don't know if you're the same, I assume you are, because we're very similar. I'm very, very risk averse. So when I invest in crypto, I'm very much blue chip orientated right now. And one of the things I find funny is people will say to me, yeah, that's great. Like, people that know 10 times more than me, they'll be like, yeah, but you're not going to make life-changing money on that. You might make good money, but you won't make life-changing. If you want life-changing, you need to find these gems. And I'll sit there and go, that's great. That's not for me.
Yeah, that's. I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. There'll be the odd occasion where I go, "Oh, that looks like it could be good." Great story for you here. I had a client of mine, who's still a client of mine after all these years. He came to me before I really started to understand crypto, and he said, "I'm looking at these NFTs, and I've got 5 in my basket. Do you want 1 or 2 while I'm here?" And I was just like, well, what are they? He was just like, oh, it's these things there, a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT, a BAYC NFT, and at the time they literally were like just starting, and I was like, I mean, they look cool. I don't know the utility, don't know what they do, but how much are they? And I think he said they're like a couple $100 each or something like that. And I was like, I'm not paying a couple $100 for a bloody picture, I'm just not. So it's like, fine, I'll put yours out, because he had 5 in his basket. It's like, fine, I'll get rid of your 2, and I'll get 3 myself. And because of that conversation, I think he even got 2 in the end. He went, oh, you know what, Jamie's probably right. So he ended up getting 2, and I ended up getting none. Now, if you're listening and you know anything about the crypto space, Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs are, I don't know what the floor price is right now. It's very high. 6 figures, if not 7 figures in some of them. And those sort of things can happen all the time, and it gives me a bit of FOMO, to be honest with you. But I have to just carry on and do what I do and what I'm good at, which is not investing.
Yeah, so like we talked in the last podcast, I invested in Strong. A real short journey on my Strong journey was, I got in quite early enough that I should have made money. Greed took over, so it went from I could make 10k a month to actually, if I keep compounding, I could make 50k a month. And that constantly happened. I got to the point where I said I was going to get to. I didn't just take profits. I then tried to get more. By trying to get more, I ended up getting hacked. I ended up losing everything. Probably about made my money back. But it's just one of those. I'm not a good investor. I don't have the right mindset to turn around and go, this is the time to exit or this is the time to enter, because I'm so risk averse. Like, if in that example I lost a lot of asset, but if I'd have actually, I'd have probably lost that asset 10 times trying to find these gems that I just don't, I'm not good enough to know. So I bow to the people that are my clients and say, you are superior to me in that knowledge. But that's fine. I'm here as a tax expert. I'm not here as an investing advice guru.
Yeah, absolutely. And from being a tax expert, another thing I wish I knew was about the bookkeeping element of it all much sooner. And I think other my clients would agree that they also wish they knew about the bookkeeping, because there are plenty of things that they're just, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to go into rebasing tokens, I'm going to try bots. And it's just like, hold on, have you thought about your bookkeeping side of things and how that's going to affect us and our prices? Have you come across that before, Robin?
Yeah, so one of the things that I did quite early on, and I'll say to people, depending on what wallets you use, there, other wallets are available. I've got a lot of experience with MetaMask, and one thing I did was found that within MetaMask you can create a new account, for example, and I find that quite interesting because what I can do is separate my wallet address off and do different things on different wallet addresses. Now, actually, in many ways, that can actually affect your bookkeeping.
Course,
But it can also make it easier because you can transact and say, right, I know this wallet is for this. So when I'm doing the bookkeeping for it, that address is primarily, for example, your bot trading. So you know what it is. But there's certainly, like I learned it myself from my own bookkeeping. I think keeping up with your bookkeeping, and I've been impressed I've had clients who come to me with spreadsheets and I've gone, this isn't going to work. And then I've looked at their spreadsheet and I'm like, wow, you have spent time doing this. Yeah. And it impresses me because I'm like, you have saved me hours of time, saved yourself hundreds of pounds. And actually, you've come up with an answer that's 95% correct. I've picked up tiny little things or prices that I've queried. But other than that, actually, the data is really good. But then consequently, 90% of people don't do that. And the issue with that is it's going to cost you more time, more money. We said this again, but I'll say it again. We're not here to try and charge you as much as possible. We want to get through as efficiently as many clients as possible and help as many people as we can. But at the same time, we have to charge the price based on the time it's going to take. So when I quote for someone, I will try and be as generous as I can, but based on the time it's going to take me to efficiently get to the right answer. The more they can do, if it's software, keep up your software up to date. Ensure that, I'm not expecting you to know the tax treatment of everything, but ensure you know what it is and how we're going to treat it together. And then when I come to do it, if you know how much you're expecting as an overall gain, if you know what you did on what day, generally speaking, and what even if it's by wallet address like I talked about earlier, then we can actually get to an answer a lot quicker and efficiently, and therefore charge you less money.
So what we're saying is be organized with your wallets, with your addresses. Be organized from a sense that if you are doing different things on the blockchain with different with one wallet, it might be an idea to separate that out and ring fence them individually so you can keep track of it.
Now, that's what I do.
There is the other end of the spectrum where you have dozens and dozens and hundreds or even thousands of wallets because you've segregated it that much, or maybe you've got a security issue. That in itself is probably too much in most situations. It might be appropriate for some, but very few would it be appropriate for. So having too little or having fewer wallets might have an issue whereby certain ring fence situations, like maybe one's a business account, one's a personal trade, that would be necessary. But having too fewer accounts where that isn't done causes an issue. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum is having too many accounts where it's just like, what's the bloody point? You've got 7 transactions per wallet, but you've got 5,000 wallets. What are you doing? And again, at the time it probably made sense, but I'm sure our clients would go, yeah, I wish I knew this beforehand.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I knew it beforehand. It would be easier 18 months ago, 2 years ago to give that advice. But obviously, right now, we're in a position where we can advise on that and say this is the best route to take.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other thing I like as well is I still have clients, much less of them are saying this, but leads, shall I say, come to me and go, I thought it was tax-free back then. I get it, it was very confusing, but it is never tax-free unless you're using it to gamble, or you're in a certain situation where there's an airdrop that is not expected. That would be tax-free to a certain extent, but when you sell it, that would still be taxable. So I think I wish I could go back in time and knew for definite, like back in, say, 2017, 18, if not sooner, and go, it's not gambling, it's definitely taxable, I need to put money aside. Because I've had someone recently go, oh, I thought it was tax-free up to 2018. That's not the case.
No, but I think the key there is, and we take no responsibility for this, the government communication was poor. Yeah. And as such, what people, I personally think what people did was read what was issued and what media outlets said and found the narrative that suited them most. And we all do that. It's human nature, so that doesn't mean that anyone did anything wrong. But what at the same time we need to do is make sure we look at an objective opinion of everything and not try and look at what is being spun towards us. We talked in our last podcast about that document issued from HMRC where someone basically says it should be gambling. That doesn't mean anything. It's a recommendation from someone that won't go anywhere. But the issue is that's reported in the media, and therefore the narrative is it's going to be tax-free.
Yep.
If we want this to succeed, and we all do, and if we want crypto to be the asset that it's recognised and we think it's going to be, that's never going to happen. It needs to be treated as an asset like everything else. We are in a digital age where digital assets do exist, and therefore they are assets. They are not gambling.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and people need. I know we've banged on about it on several podcasts and several Twitter Spaces and tweets, but it's so important to understand that a proportion of it might be tax-free, might be gambling, and they might change that in the future, but it cannot all be gambling, cannot all be tax-free. Otherwise, I think you're doing a discredit for the space, really, because it's so much more than just an asset that might go up or might go down, What's your final thing from your end, Robin, in terms of things that you wish, as an investor or an accountant, that you wish you knew back then, say 2, 3, 4 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, that you definitely know now?
I think it would be down client advice. So the conversation I would have with a client now would be so much different for conversation one than it was 2, 3 years ago. My conversation now would be get someone on board early. I know you do. I give free consultations initially. I can give a client advice on how to set up, within a 20-minute conversation. And it might be that there's no specific filing requests now, but I can save clients hundreds of pounds in that filing request by telling them the effective ways to set up, advising them what to do, what to go away, what they can do. You will always have clients that will come to you and go, I want you to do it all. That's fine, they pay for that. But if you don't want to pay for it all, then you need to go away and put some steps in place and ensure that you do as much as you can. And on the back of that, look at your accountancy, what you're doing with your accountancy and who you're working with. I have a lot of people come to me, my accountant doesn't know how to do this. Okay, that's fine. We're happy to work. I know I speak for Minor as well. We're happy to work with clients that already have accountants. That's not a problem, and we'll work with their accountant. But what the issue is, I wouldn't suggest that you shoehorn it into a one-size-fits-all scenario with your existing accountant, because I've seen multiple cases where this has gone wrong and taxes have been filed wrong. And, you won't get leniency if it's picked up by HMRC. They won't say it's your accountant's fault. They'll say you have a responsibility personally to understand your own tax liabilities as well. So yeah, my advice would be get that initial conversation in with someone that knows what they're talking about, and then you can make an informed decision on your next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, we're probably not preaching to the right people, because those listening in are, by simply listening in, taking those right steps to go, right, what should I be doing? Who should I be talking to, and all that. But yeah, so just to recap, what did we wish that we knew back then that we know now? Software, unexpected bills, DeFi issues from a regulatory perspective, ongoing tax planning, bookkeeping issues. We're talking about tax-free elements for certain assets, gambling. Most cases not. I mean, if you go to a gambling website that uses crypto, that's gambling. But that's gambling for gambling's sake, not for crypto's sake. The scope of the space is absolutely huge, and obviously we both wish we knew how to make money, yet we still don't in the crypto space. Not enough anyway to make a big impact in our lives. So hopefully that will all change in the bull market. So that's a recap. Again, Robin, I know I did this last time and I put you on the spot, and I'm going to put you on the spot again for another top tax tip for crypto, for those in the crypto space as investors before we sign off?
Well, we talked, I think I said in the last one about getting a crypto tax accountant, so I'll always caveat that one in there. I'll do a different one to the last one. My last one was tax planning. So part of tax planning, we'll use tax loss harvesting, which is probably the biggest thing that people don't necessarily look at. If you've got losses, there are ways to harvest those losses to effectively and efficiently pay your taxes and make sure your gains are correct. There's obviously caveats within that, bed and breakfast in, 30-day rule, things like that. But speak to an accountant. Tax loss harvesting is a big thing if you can get it right.
I think some people around the world call it wash trading as well, from memory. So in case you don't know what tax loss harvesting is, you might know the term wash trading, which is very similar. So yeah, some great advice there from Robin. Non-advice, shall we say. Thank you again so much for turning up and so much for being part of this. We absolutely love your presence and love what you do for the industry, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you very much. Catch you guys soon. Bye-bye.